My name is Anna Boyland. I'm 32, and my family likes their stories tidy. Dads are pillars, moms are peacemakers, and daughters become symbols. You can toast over roast beef. I used to fit in that story, the dependable one, the quiet one, the one who covered gaps without being asked, the accountant with a beating heart. The group text arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, my mother's cheery punctuation marching like toy soldiers. Family dinner next Saturday. Full attendance. No excuses. I could already hear her voice, bright, tinny, stretched over a drum of anxiety. I stared at the message while my boyfriend Mark rinsed coffee mugs in my sink. "Are you going?" he asked. "They said full attendance." He set a mug on the rack and studied me. Mark has the kind of face that looks like it's always telling the truth. "Do you want to?" Wanting never mattered in my family. "It's easier to go," I said. Then, because he sees through me, "I'll be fine." He dried his hands and squeezed my shoulder. "If it gets weird, text me one word. I'll call with a fake emergency." I smirked. "What word?" "Pineapple. No one suspects fruit." "Deal," I said. I was joking. I thought I was. By Saturday, I had a plan. Show up on time, bring a bottle of decent red, help set the table, smile at the right moments, keep the peace, keep the mask, keep my sister's secrets, again. Because that's what I did. I kept things from falling apart. For 3 years, I had kept Jasmine's life from cracking along the stress lines: rent, tuition, car insurance, the laptop she needed because hers mysteriously died during midterms. I paid, and they applauded her. Cause and effect disguised as miracle. I parked outside my parents' house and watched the porch light buzz like a nervous thought. Inside, my mother was already moving plates like chess pieces. "Anna," she sang, because she only uses the full name when guests are present or guilt is required. "So glad you're here early. Can you slice the bread? The rosemary loaf? Oh, and the napkins with the gold edges." I kissed her cheek. "Hi, Mom." I set the wine by the sink, rolled up my sleeves, and slid back into the role. Reliable daughter, efficient hands, quiet smile. Uncle Rob arrived first, smelling like cologne and good intentions. Then Aunt Carol, who notices everything and says half of it. Finally, at some casual, performative lateness, Jasmine breezed in. Hoodie that probably cost a car payment, phone in hand, a smile that never reached her eyes. My mother glowed like Jasmine had returned from a moon landing. My father stood a little taller. Jasmine tossed her purse onto the bench without looking. "Hey," she said to the room, to no one, to everyone, and checked her phone again. I watched her like you watch a fire. Part of you can't look away. Part of you knows it burns the things you love. We sat. The conversation bumped along like an old car. Weather, a neighbor's renovation, the price of groceries. I contributed measured nods. The roast glistened under lights that were too bright. At minute 15, the script began. My father rose, lifted his glass, and cleared his throat with theatrical gravity. "To Jasmine," he said, voice warm, eyes glassy, "who showed us what determination looks like, who worked hard, stayed focused, and got where she is today with no handouts. That's how success is built." The clinking started. Aunt Carol, who hadn't had wine since the 90s, lifted her water like it was holy. My mother blinked fast, a happy panic. Jasmine gave a tiny, practiced smile. And me? I felt something slide inside my chest, a quiet latch coming unstuck. No handouts. It would have been so easy to swallow the lie. It always had been. But I could see the ledger so clearly it hurt. The transfers, the auto pays, the afternoons I spent on hold with financial aid while Jasmine posted brunch photos. The way my father beamed at the person standing on my shoulders. I didn't raise my glass. I raised my voice just enough. "Then she'll be fine without the tuition transfers I've been sending every semester," I said. Silence. Someone's fork touched the plate like a cymbal. Jasmine froze, her smile disconnecting from her face. My mother's mouth made a soundless "oh." My father stared at me as if my words were a foreign currency and he had no exchange rate. I took a sip of water. "And the car insurance," I added, "since sophomore year, and the MacBook when hers crashed, and the rent for her off-campus apartment, which is still, by the way, auto-paid from my account." "Anna," my mother whispered, color draining. "Not now." "No handouts, right?" I set my glass down carefully. "Guess she won't need mine anymore." Jasmine's phone lit up with a notification she didn't touch. She placed it face down, slowly, as if sudden movement would make me continue. I did not intend to say more, but the truth is greedy once set free. I'm not angry, I said. I'm just aligning my actions with Dad's beliefs. I turned to him. You're right. Success is built, not given. So I'm done giving. My father's jaw worked. This is not appropriate dinner conversation. It's the dinner you ordered, I said, and it came out softer than I felt. The room stayed suspended, plates steaming like nothing else was breathing. No one asked about my job. No one asked about the team I lead, the house I bought, the way I double-checked every autopay so I could sleep. They never did. I was a ceiling in this family, unnoticed until I cracked. We finished the meal in a strange quiet, the kind that reveals the machinery under the floorboards. Uncle Rob chewed like it was a test. Aunt Carol watched me the way you watch a bridge sway and hope it holds. My mother kept refolding her napkin corners into perfumed triangles. After dessert, I stood, thanked my mother for dinner, and put on my coat. My father didn't meet my eyes. Jasmine stared at a fixed point in space like a magician waiting for the trapdoor to open beneath someone else. Outside, the air had the thin cleanness of winter. In my car, I opened my banking app and began dismantling the scaffolding. Tuition. Canceled. Rent. Canceled. Insurance. Removed. Lined them up and clicked them off. Each confirmation a quiet exhale I'd owed myself for too long. I expected my hands to shake. They didn't. They felt steady, like I'd finally put something heavy down. Back home, Mark looked up from the couch when I walked in. Hey, how did... He saw my face and stood. Do you need pineapple? I laughed, and the laugh cracked on the second syllable. I already did the thing, I said. I told them. I turned everything off. He pulled me in. Good. Then breathe. I leaned into him, counting. In, 2, 3, out. 2, 3. My mind played the dinner back in jagged clips, the toast, the clink, my mother's napkin, Jasmine's phone going dark like a stage light blown. Under it, a quieter film. Me at my kitchen table at 1 a.m., moving numbers into columns, searching for enough. You're allowed to choose yourself, Mark said into my hair. You're allowed to stop. I keep thinking I should have done it gently, or privately. You did it honestly. We sat. The house hummed its small night music. Pipes, refrigerator, the confidence of things built to last. Somewhere beyond the windows, the world went on, not knowing that in a dining room, with gold-edged napkins, an old story had cracked. My phone stayed still that night. No angry texts, no performative apologies. The silence felt like a room reset after guests leave, cups abandoned, the scent of perfume and roasted garlic still clinging to the air. I went to my desk, opened my laptop, and typed a note to myself I did not intend to forget. You are not the safety net. You are not the villain for stepping aside. If the applause was honest, it can survive without you. I closed the laptop and watched the ceiling fan make its patient circles. For years, I had been the uncredited part of someone else's myth. Tonight, I had simply stopped playing. At 2:17 a.m., I woke to the quiet awareness that something had shifted. The way you wake seconds before a storm breaks, the way the body registers pressure before the windows rattle. I didn't know what would happen next. I only knew the machine would notice when its hidden gear was gone. In the dark, my phone stayed face down, and the room held its breath with me. This was the first night they would sleep without my name on the receipts. And in the morning, they would wake to a truth we could no longer toast away. For 3 days after that dinner, my phone stayed silent. No calls, no messages. Not even one of Mom's chirpy, "hope you're doing well," texts that usually arrived like emotional smoke signals. I thought it would bother me. It didn't. The quiet felt like air returning to my lungs after years of holding my breath. I went to work, handled meetings, grabbed coffee with coworkers without checking my phone every 5 minutes for crisis updates that weren't mine. I stopped flinching when the bank app pinged, because now there was nothing left for them to drain. Freedom, I realized, doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like absence. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, the first crack appeared. Subject line, urgent. Tuition payment. Overdue. I stared at the email, blinking at Jasmine's name listed in the student account holder line, followed by the words, Balance past due. Payment required to avoid removal from classes. I hovered my mouse over delete. For a second, old reflexes kicked in. The instinct to fix things before anyone noticed, to protect the illusion that everything was fine. Then I remembered the toast. My father's proud smile. Jasmine's empty eyes. The sound of my own voice saying, "I'm done giving." Click. Deleted. Later that evening, while making tea, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Jasmine, hey, can we talk?" That was it. No apology, no acknowledgement. No thank you for the years I'd been her invisible bank account. I stared at the message until the tea went cold. Then I locked my phone and slid it face down on the counter. The next day, Mom called. I didn't answer. Her voicemail was overly bright, the way it always got when she was rehearsing calm for the sake of control. "Hey, sweetheart. Just thinking we should all catch up soon. Jasmine's having a little hiccup with her school payments. She's been so stressed. Maybe she just needs to talk to you. You know how she looks up to you, right?" I laughed under my breath. Looked up to me? No, she looked past me. Past the person cleaning her messes, past the sister she only remembered when deadlines hit. I texted back one line, "Not my responsibility anymore." An hour later, Mom read it but didn't reply. Then the next morning, Dad's name flashed on my screen. I almost ignored it. Almost. But curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to hear which version of the story he'd tell himself this time. When I answered, his tone was clipped, professional, like he was negotiating with a client, not calling his daughter. "Anna, your sister's in a tough spot. Her tuition's behind. She's at risk of losing her classes. You have the means to help, and you're just watching it happen?" I took a slow breath. "Dad, I helped her graduate high school. I helped her get into college. I helped her stay in college. I bought her car, paid her rent, her insurance, her tuition. I did more than either of you ever did, and I never got a single thank you, let alone a toast." He went quiet, the silence stretched like rubber about to snap. Finally he said, "She's family." "So am I," said softly, "and I'm tired of being treated like a backup parent with a credit card." He muttered something about disrespect, then hung up. Typical. End the call before the mirror shows too much reflection. I set the phone down and exhaled. My hands were steady, but my chest felt heavy. It's strange how guilt doesn't disappear the moment you draw a boundary. It lingers like muscle memory, whispering that you're cruel for wanting peace. For the first time in years, I let myself sit in that quiet ache instead of fixing it. Days passed. No contact. I thought maybe that was it, until a week later, a slow, deliberate knock echoed at my apartment door. I froze. My heart knew before my brain caught up. Through the peephole, Jasmine. No car in the driveway, no Uber idling outside, which meant she'd either walked or taken the bus. She looked smaller, not thinner, but deflated. Her shoulders slumped, her phone dangling loosely in her hand. She knocked again. "Anna, I know you're there." I stayed silent. I just need to talk, okay? Please?" The word please cracked something in me, but not enough to open the door. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, listening to the sound of her breathing on the other side. I remembered every bill, every late-night transfer, every time I'd said, "Don't worry, I've got it," while she smiled and went back to scrolling. Now, she was finally standing in the silence she'd helped build. After a minute, her breathing hitched. Then, footsteps. Through the peephole, I watched her walk away, hood up, head down, swallowed by the hallway light. I didn't open the door, not because I hated her, but because I didn't recognize her anymore. 2 weeks later, the email I'd been expecting finally arrived. Notification. Student withdrawal. Jasmine Boyland official. Final. No tuition, no classes, no apartment. And just like that, the golden glow that my parents had worshipped began to flicker out. For years, Jasmine had been the success story they toasted. Now, she was just a story with bills and excuses. And for the first time, I wasn't in the footnotes. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing for sure. This silence wasn't the end of the story. It was just the sound of their illusion starting to crack. The quiet lasted almost a month. No calls, no messages. I thought maybe my parents had decided to pretend I didn't exist, a trick they'd pulled before when reality became inconvenient. Then, one evening, my Aunt Carol called, the truth teller of the family. She never sugarcoated, never played along with the perfect daughter, perfect parents performance. Her voice was low. "Anna, I don't mean to stir things up, but have you spoken to your folks lately?" No. Why?" She sighed. "They're worried sick. Jasmine's back home, sleeping till noon, barely leaving her room. Says she's job hunting, but from what I hear, she spends most of her time on that phone of hers. It's not looking good. I sat on the couch, heart steady. They wanted her home, now they have her. Carol exhaled through the receiver. You know, your parents built her up so high they couldn't see the ground anymore, but she's hit it, hard. After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about the pedestal my parents had carved for Jasmine, the one built from my paychecks, my patience, and my silence. Now, every crack they refused to see was starting to split open. A week later, my mom's number flashed on my phone again. I didn't answer, but this time she left a message that didn't sound bright or rehearsed. Anna, things aren't easy here. Jasmine's having trouble adjusting. She's not herself. Your father and I are trying to help, but... Her voice broke off. No manipulation, no emotional guilt trip, just exhaustion. I didn't call back. 2 days later, Dad called. He didn't waste time. Anna, your mother's worried sick. Jasmine's been moody, snapping at us. She's fallen behind on her credit card payments, and I had to step in to cover one of them. I didn't respond. He hesitated. I know things were said that night at dinner, but... Things weren't said, Dad. Things were revealed. He ignored that. We're all struggling right now. Groceries, utilities. You know how expensive things are these days. There it was, the familiar dance around the real question. I decided to end it early. If you're calling to ask for money, the answer is no. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. A long silence stretched between us, the kind that forces honesty to fill the space. Finally, he said, almost defensively, You've always been the stable one, Anna. You can afford to help. Jasmine just needs a little boost to get back on her feet. I took a deep breath. Is she still using the laptop I bought her? He hesitated. No, she sold it. For rent? For spending money, I think. I closed my eyes. She sold it to avoid working, Dad. You can't fix that with another bailout. He sighed heavily. What are we supposed to do? Let her drown? I kept my voice calm. Start seeing her for who she really is, not who you want her to be. He didn't respond. The silence was answer enough. Then a muttered, You sound just like your grandfather, before the line went dead. When I set my phone down, my chest felt lighter than it should have. It wasn't joy, just the strange peace of no longer carrying something that was never mine to hold. That night, I went for a walk around my neighborhood. The air was cold, and the stars looked sharp enough to cut glass. I passed quiet houses, each glowing faintly from within, each family probably spinning its own tiny myth of perfection. I thought about how long my parents had chosen the fantasy over the truth. They needed Jasmine to be the success story. They needed to believe that their favoritism had produced brilliance, not dependency. But without me funding the illusion, reality was coming for them fast. Over the next 2 weeks, the updates came in fragments. Text messages from relatives, whispers from family friends. Jasmine's not looking for work. She's blaming the economy. Your mom's trying to cover her credit card debt. Your dad's been quiet, embarrassed maybe. I never asked for these updates. They just found me, like smoke seeping through cracks under the door. Then, on a gray Thursday afternoon, Dad called again. His voice was low, stripped of pride. Anna, I think we were wrong. I waited. He cleared his throat. We wanted so badly for her to succeed that we stopped asking if she was even trying. Now she's angry, aimless. She blames everyone, especially you. Of course she does, I said quietly. Blame's easier than responsibility. He went silent again, then sighed. Your mother and I don't know what to do anymore. I looked out the window at the street below, at people coming home from work, tired but proud of what they'd earned. Maybe that's the point, I said. Maybe it's not your job, or mine, to do anything. Maybe Jasmine needs to feel the weight of her own choices. He didn't like that answer. I could hear it in the tightening of his voice. You're being cruel. No, I said softly. I'm being consistent. We hung up without goodbyes. That night, I wrote in my journal, they're not protecting her anymore. They're protecting the guilt of having created her. The cracks in their illusion were widening faster now. Mom texted the next morning. She's saying she might take a semester off to regroup. Regroup, their favorite euphemism for failure. I typed, then deleted, a dozen replies before settling on none. I didn't owe them comfort for the storm they'd ignored. Still, I couldn't shake the image of Jasmine pacing the old living room, her pedestal collapsing inch by inch beneath her feet, my parents standing helpless beside her. They were finally seeing what I'd seen years ago, that Jasmine's success had always been a reflection, and I had been the mirror, Now that I'd stepped away, they were staring at their own distorted image, and the longer they looked, the more it crumbled. It was almost mid-April when the phone rang again, but this time it wasn't my parents. It was Jake, an old coworker from my first tech support job, the kind of friend who never calls unless there's a purpose. "Hey, Anna," he said. "Random question. You know anyone looking for an entry-level support position? Nothing fancy, just steady hours, decent pay, benefits. We need someone who's quick with people and computers. I thought of you." I hesitated. "You thought of me?" He laughed. No. I thought maybe you knew someone. You've got all those cousins, right? Or maybe your sister? You used to mention her." The mention of Jasmine's name was like a pin in a bruise. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "I might," I said slowly. "Let me think about it." When we hung up, I sat in silence, the phone heavy in my hand. For weeks, I'd told myself that Jasmine's life wasn't my responsibility anymore, that I didn't owe her another cent, another fix, another rescue. But now there was this, an opportunity, a job, a real one, not a bailout, not a transfer. It wasn't pity that made me pause. It was curiosity. Had she learned anything? Had any of them? I didn't call Jasmine. I called Mom. "Hi, honey," she answered cautiously, like the phone itself might explode. "Mom," I said, cutting to the point, "there's an opening at a tech firm. Entry-level support, full-time, decent pay. I think Jasmine should apply." She gasped, hopeful. "Oh, Anna, that's wonderful. I'll tell her right away." "Don't," I said quickly. "Tell her if she wants to start over. This is a chance. But she has to call them herself. I'm not doing introductions or hand-holding." A pause. "You're trying to help." "No," I corrected gently. "I'm giving her a mirror. What she does with it is up to her." Mom didn't quite understand, but she agreed. An hour later, my phone lit up again. "Jasmine." The text came first. "What is this job Mom's talking about? Some desk monkey thing?" Then the call followed before I could type a reply. Her voice was sharp, defensive, like someone walking into a conversation with their fists already raised. "Are you trying to make me beg, Anna? You think I need you to save me?" "No," I said calmly. "I think you need to save yourself." She scoffed. "Please, you just want to feel superior." "If that's what you want to believe," I replied, "go ahead. But this isn't a favor. It's a chance. Take it or don't." "You love this, don't you? Watching me struggle." That one stung, not because it was true, but because it was the kind of lie she had to tell herself to avoid looking in the mirror. "I don't love it," I said quietly, "but I'm not stopping it either." She hung up. 2 days later, Mom texted. She went to the interview. Didn't say much, but she went. For the first time in months, I smiled. Jake called later that evening. "So your sister, Jasmine, right, came by. She's interesting. Bit defensive, but smart. I'll give her a shot." "Thank you," I said, surprised at how much I meant it. "She'll need training wheels for a while," he added. "But she's got potential if she sticks around." That was the question, wasn't it? If she sticks around. The next few weeks passed quietly. I didn't reach out. I didn't ask. But sometimes I'd check Jake's Instagram stories and catch glimpses of their office, blurred group photos, birthday cupcakes, quick snapshots of the team. In one of them, I thought I saw Jasmine, half smile, head down. For the first time, she looked like everyone else. It gave me a strange, unfamiliar feeling. Not pride, not relief, but something in between. Maybe this was what hope felt like when it stopped hurting. But like everything in my family, calm never lasted long. 6 weeks after that interview, Jake texted me out of the blue. "She quit." Just 2 words, but they landed like a stone in my chest. "Did she say why?" I asked. He replied almost immediately. Said it was too draining, long hours, boring work. Didn't like taking orders. She left her badge on the desk and walked out mid-shift. I thanked him for trying, but after the call ended, I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. Part of me wasn't surprised. Jasmine had always lived in the in-between, the space where potential never met discipline, where promises evaporated under pressure. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just felt tired. Tired for her, for my parents, for the endless reruns of the same pattern. Crisis, rescue, relapse. I didn't reach out. Neither did she. 3 days later, Mom called again. Her voice trembled this time. "She quit, Anna. We told her she couldn't keep doing this. Your father even said—" Her voice cracked. 30 days. 30 days to find a job or move out. I didn't know whether to believe it. My parents had made threats before. Empty ones. But this time, something in Mom's tone told me the air had changed. "Did you mean it?" I asked. "Yes," she said quietly. "Even your father agreed. We can't keep saving her." I took a deep breath. "Then don't." When we hung up, I looked around my apartment, the tidy kitchen, the quiet hum of my laptop, the life I'd built without applause. For the first time, I realized how peaceful stability could be when it wasn't constantly being invaded by someone else's chaos. A week later, Mom sent one last message. We told her the deadline. She's furious, blaming everyone, especially you. I read it, then locked my phone. Because for once, the blame didn't matter. The mirror had been handed over. Whether Jasmine chose to see herself in it or shatter it completely, that was no longer my story to fix. By May, the air between us had curdled into something heavy and permanent. No more polite check-ins, no more sugar-coated guilt trips, just the sound of consequences echoing down the hallway of a house that used to hide them. Mom called one night after 10 p.m. Her voice was thin, brittle. She's losing it, Anna. Your sister's yelling, blaming, crying one minute and silent the next. Your father finally said it. He's done. What do you mean, done? I asked. He gave her 30 days, Mom whispered. Find a job or move out. He's serious this time. Something inside me went still. For years, my father had been all thunder and no lightning. But now, there was the faint rumble of follow-through. How did she take it? She screamed, Mom said quietly. Said we were abandoning her. Said none of this would have happened if you hadn't cut her off. I swallowed hard. There it was, the familiar scapegoat role I'd worn for years, dressed in guilt and stitched with obligation. But I didn't put it back on this time. Mom, I said softly, I didn't abandon her. I stopped protecting her from herself. She didn't argue. She just sighed, sounding older than I'd ever heard her. I think I understand now. We thought we were helping her all these years, but we were only keeping her from growing. I didn't reply. Sometimes silence is the only thing heavy enough to make the truth settle. The days that followed were filled with updates I never asked for. She's refusing to look for work. She's fighting with your father over Wi-Fi bills. She keeps saying she's the victim. It was like listening to a storm report from a distance. You can hear the destruction, but you're no longer standing in the rain. Then came the final message from Dad, late one night. We told her she has 2 weeks left. She says it's your fault, but we know it isn't. I just wanted you to know that. I stared at that text for a long time. My father had never once admitted fault, never once separated his pride from his parenting. And yet, here it was, a single fragile sentence of accountability. When I finally replied, I wrote, "Thank you for saying that. I hope you both start healing too." No anger, no lectures, just closure. 3 weeks later, Jasmine moved out. She didn't tell me where. Mom said she packed 2 suitcases, took her phone charger, and left without saying goodbye. Part of me worried, another part exhaled. For the first time in years, I felt no strings attached to me, no shared bank accounts, no guilt transfers, no emotional invoices marked past due. That weekend, I met Mark for dinner at a quiet little Italian place. Over candlelight and half-finished pasta, he smiled softly at me. "You look different," he said. "How so?" "Lighter," he said, "like you're not bracing for something." I smiled, tracing the rim of my glass. "Because I'm not. I think the storm's finally passed." He reached across the table, brushed his thumb over my hand. "You did what you had to do, Anna. You didn't burn bridges. You just stopped carrying other people across them." I let out a small laugh. That's the kindest way anyone's ever described setting boundaries. A few months passed. Summer came. The silence stretched, but this time it was the good kind. The kind filled with peace, not punishment. One evening, as the sky blushed into dusk, Mom called again. Her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. "Your father and I wanted to say, we're sorry." I didn't interrupt. She continued, "We shielded Jasmine. We ignored you. We praised her for things you made possible. I can see that now." I closed my eyes. "Mom, I forgive you." She sobbed quietly. "Does that mean things can go back to how they were?" "No," I said gently. "Forgiveness doesn't mean going backward. It just means I'm not angry anymore." A pause, then, "We understand." For the first time in my life, I believed her. A few weeks later, Aunt Carol texted me a photo. It was Jasmine, working behind a counter at a small cafe downtown. Hair pulled back, apron on, smile faint but real. Under the image, Carol had typed, "She's figuring it out, kiddo, in her own way." I stared at the photo for a long time. The girl in it looked nothing like the golden child I'd grown up beside. She looked human, fallible, trying. And maybe that was the first honest version of her I'd ever seen. Family dinners are quieter now. No toasts, no grand speeches about self-made success. We talk about small things, weather, recipes, Mom's garden. Sometimes Jasmine joins. Sometimes she doesn't. But when she does, she brings dessert. She pays for her own gas. She even offered once to split the grocery bill. Small steps, but real ones. Dad doesn't brag anymore. Mom doesn't compare. And me? I don't bring wine to Peacekeep. I bring it because I want to. The house feels different. Not perfect, but honest. As I left one Sunday evening, Jasmine walked me to the door. Hey, she said awkwardly. Thanks for, not giving up on me, even when you did. I smiled. You grew up, Jazz. I just stopped making it painless. She nodded, and for a brief moment, we were sisters again. Not a savior and a dependent, just two women trying to rebuild what life had chipped away. Outside, the air was warm. The porch light hummed softly, the same one that had buzzed the night I ended the cycle. I turned back once and saw them through the window. My parents clearing dishes side by side, Jasmine folding napkins instead of leaving them behind. The image was small, ordinary, and somehow perfect. For years, I'd been the quiet gear that kept their illusion turning. Now I'd become the silence that made truth possible. I drove home in peace, a single thought settling like a final note. I wasn't the family ATM anymore. I wasn't the scapegoat. I wasn't the forgotten one. I was the lesson they needed to learn. And I learned mine, too. Boundaries aren't revenge. They're the price of peace.